What happens when Hollywood royalty meets actual royalty and the cameras are rolling? Well, buckle up because what unfolded on the Kelly Clarkson show was nothing short of explosive. A conversation that was supposed to be a friendly chat about empowerment and new beginnings turned into one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think really happened here. The studio lights were blazing as Kelly Clarkson adjusted her earpiece. Her signature warm smile plastered across her face. Across from her sat Meghan Markle, impeccably dressed in a cream-colored blazer, her posture perfectly straight, hands folded neatly in her lap. The audience was buzzing with excitement, completely unaware that they were about to witness television history in the making. So, Meghan, Kelly began, her voice carrying that familiar Texas warmth that had made her a daytime television favorite. You've been through quite a journey these past few years. I mean, from actress to duchess to, well, finding your own path. How has that transformation shaped who you are today? Meghan's smile was calculated, practiced. Well, Kelly, I think what people don't understand is that I've always been authentic to myself. The journey hasn't changed me. It simply revealed who I was all along. I've always been someone who stands up for what's right, who uses her voice to create change. Kelly nodded, but there was something in her eyes, a flicker of something that suggested she wasn't entirely buying what Meghan was selling. That's beautiful, and I think a lot of people admire that about you. But I have to ask, and I hope you don't mind me being direct, because that's just who I am. Some people have criticized the way certain situations were handled. Do you ever have moments where you think, maybe I could have done something differently? The question hung in the air like a loaded gun. Meghan's smile faltered for just a microsecond before snapping back into place. But the damage was done. Anyone watching closely could see the shift in her demeanor. Kelly, I think that's a very interesting question. Meghan replied, her voice taking on a slightly sharper edge. But I would challenge anyone who has criticism to walk in my shoes first. When you're dealing with an institution that has centuries of tradition, and you're trying to bring about change, there are always going to be people who resist that change. Kelly leaned forward slightly, her journalist instincts kicking in. But Meghan, I'm not talking about the institution. I'm talking about personal relationships, family relationships. When I watch some of the interviews you've done, I see a lot of pain, and I get that. But I also see a family that seems to be hurting, too. Don't you think healing sometimes requires taking responsibility for our own part in the conflict? The temperature in the studio seemed to drop 10 degrees. Meghan's carefully constructed facade began to crack, and for a moment, the audience could see something raw and unfiltered beneath the surface. I'm sorry, Kelly, but I think you're misunderstanding the situation, Meghan said, her voice tight with barely controlled emotion. I have taken responsibility. I've been nothing but transparent about my experiences. What I won't do is apologize for speaking my truth or for protecting my family. Kelly's smile never wavered, but her eyes were sharp, focused. I'm not asking you to apologize for your truth, Meghan. I'm asking if you think there might be more than one truth in this situation. Because when I talk to people, when I read the stories, when I watch the interviews, I see a lot of hurt on all sides. And sometimes healing requires us to acknowledge that maybe we all played a part in the breakdown. The audience was dead silent now, sensing the tension crackling between the two women. Meghan's hands had moved from her lap to grip the arms of her chair, her knuckles white with tension. Kelly, I find it very interesting that you're sitting here in a position of privilege, lecturing me about healing and taking responsibility. Meghan's voice was rising now, the careful modulation slipping away. You have no idea what it's like to be the only person of color in that family, to be treated as an outsider, to have your mental health struggles dismissed. Kelly's expression softened slightly, but she didn't back down. You're absolutely right, Meghan. I don't know what that's like, and I can't imagine how difficult that must have been. But what I do know is that when relationships break down, everyone involved usually bears some responsibility. That's just human nature. Human nature? Meghan's laugh was bitter, sharp. Kelly, we're not talking about a normal family dispute here. We're talking about a racist institution that was never going to accept me no matter what I did. And frankly, I'm surprised that you, as someone who has faced your own challenges in this industry, would sit here and suggest that I should have just accepted that treatment. The gloves were officially off now. Kelly's smile had completely disappeared, replaced by a look of genuine concern mixed with frustration. Meghan, I never said you should have accepted racist treatment. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that maybe, just maybe, not everything that happened was about race. Maybe some of it was about personality conflicts, about different expectations, about communication breakdowns. So now you're minimizing my experiences? Meghan's voice was sharp as a blade. You're sitting here telling me that my experiences with racism were actually just personality conflicts. That's exactly the kind of gaslighting that I had to deal with for years. Kelly took a deep breath, clearly trying to maintain her composure. I'm not minimizing anything. Meghan, I'm trying to have an honest conversation about healing and moving forward. But every time I try to explore the possibility that there might be multiple perspectives on this situation, you accuse me of racism or gaslighting. How is that productive? The audience was squirming in their seats now, clearly uncomfortable with the direction the conversation had taken. What had started as a typical daytime television interview had devolved into something much more raw and confrontational. Productive? Meghan's voice dripped with disdain. Kelly, the only thing that would be productive is if people like you stopped trying to force victims to take responsibility for their abusers' actions. That's not healing. That's enabling. Kelly's eyes flashed with anger for the first time. I'm not enabling anyone, Meghan, and I resent the implication that I am. I'm trying to have a mature conversation about complex family dynamics, and you're turning it into something it's not. Oh, so now I'm being immature? Meghan stood up slightly in her chair, her voice rising. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The moment someone speaks truth to power, the moment someone refuses to play the game, they're labeled as difficult, as immature, as the problem. Kelly remained seated, but her voice was firm. Meghan, you're putting words in my mouth that I never said. I never called you immature. I said I was trying to have a mature conversation, which is different. But if you want to twist my words to fit your narrative, that's your choice. The tension in the studio was suffocating now. Camera operators were looking at each other nervously, unsure whether to keep rolling or cut to commercial. The audience sat in stunned silence, witnessing what was clearly becoming a complete breakdown of the interview format. My narrative? Meghan's voice was incredulous. Kelly, my narrative is my lived experience. And if you can't handle that, if you can't handle the truth about what really happened, then maybe you're not the right person to be having this conversation. Kelly's patience was clearly wearing thin. I can handle the truth. Meghan, what I can't handle is being accused of racism and gaslighting simply because I'm asking questions that you don't want to answer. That's not fair and it's not right. The silence that followed was deafening. You could hear a pin drop as both women stared at each other, the weight of their words hanging heavy in the air. Not fair. Meghan's voice was dangerously quiet now, the kind of quiet that precedes a storm. Kelly, you want to talk about what's not fair? What's not fair is having a woman who has never walked in my shoes sit here and tell me that my experiences aren't valid. What's not fair is having someone who has built their career on being relatable suddenly act like they don't understand what it means to be silenced. Kelly's eyes flashed with genuine hurt. Meghan, I never said your experiences weren't valid. Not once. What I said was that there might be multiple perspectives on what happened. That's not the same thing at all. And you know it. Multiple perspectives, Meghan repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. That's a very diplomatic way of saying that you don't believe me. That's what that means, right, Kelly? When someone tells you they experienced racism, and you respond by talking about multiple perspectives, you're essentially saying that their truth isn't the whole truth. Kelly leaned forward, her voice rising with frustration. That's not what I'm saying, and you're being deliberately obtuse. I'm saying that in any complex situation involving multiple people, there are usually multiple viewpoints. That doesn't invalidate your experience. It just acknowledges that other people involved might have had different experiences of the same events. Meghan's laugh was sharp and bitter. Kelly, either someone treats you differently because of your race, or they don't. There's no multiple perspectives on that. There's just truth and lies. Kelly took a deep breath, clearly trying to regain control. Meghan, I think we're getting off track. The point I was trying to make is that healing requires understanding, and understanding requires listening to all sides. That's not minimizing your pain. It's just acknowledging that complex situations rarely have simple solutions. All sides, Meghan repeated, her voice rising again. Kelly, When one side is racist and the other side is the victim of racism. There are not two equal sides. When one side has all the power and the other side has none. There are not two equal sides. The fact that you can't see that tells me everything. I need to know about where you really stand. Kelly's composure finally began to crack. Where I stand. Meghan, I've spent my entire career advocating for people who don't have a voice. I've used my platform to support causes that matter. I've been open about my own struggles with mental health and feeling like an outsider. So, don't sit there and lecture me about where I stand just because. I'm asking questions you don't want to answer.